What's up, everybody? Action Brian here. I'm here with Action Bear. If you're not following us on Instagram, first and foremost, go ahead and do that. We started a bankroll challenge where our goal is simple. We're going to grind $25,000 in these low stake games playing 1-2, 1-3, and we're going to be giving away a 5% free roll every time we hit a $5,000 milestone. All you have to do is follow me on Instagram, follow Left Pocket, post a session utilizing the Left Pocket app, and that'll enter you into the giveaway. Here on the screen, you can see our results. We're up $3,334 over the last 8 sessions. We're up with an hourly rate of $70, and we have a win rate of 75%. Aggression wins these games. You're gonna be seeing a lot of these hands where it might seem like we're getting out of line, but realistically, we're targeting certain players, we're trying to take down dead money, and most importantly, we're providing the action. Let's go ahead and get straight into it. In the very first hand of the session, we're dealt King, Queen of Hearts, a beautiful, beautiful hand here in the end of the gun +2 position. We're $500 effective, and we use an opening sizing here of $15. While this deviates a little bit from the recommended GTO sizing, you have to understand that in these lower stake games, you have to make adjustments to what's going on around you. We only get a call from the player that's in the low jack. That's a good thing, as in usually in these lower stake games, you're going 5-6 ways to a flop. But fortunately for us, that's not what happens here. We go heads up, out of position to a board that comes 3, 4, 7, 2 diamonds. We're going to check range here, and he snap checks back, kind of confirming to us that we have the best hand when the king comes on the turn. We bet small, $10 into a pot of 33, and he snap calls. When the river is the ace of diamonds, but completing the flush, we check as that's a bad card for us, and he turns over queen 9 of diamonds for a flush. We got off the hook cheap. The very next hand that we get involved in, we look down at 10-7 of spades in the big blind. This is 100% a call in the big blind. In the big blind, we're going to be playing majority of our hands closer to about 50%. Very similar range to the button range. We already have $3 in here in the pot. However, we get a flat from the button player who is a very tight player. And when the small blind completes, we decide to just check here. Normally, this is a hand that I probably would squeeze to try to pick up dead money and realistically just take the pot down when it's unopened to me in the big blind. However, we go 3 ways to a flop and the board comes 10-9-5. We have a top pair with backdoor straight draw, and after the small blind checks, we decide to check our big blind here and give the button an option to go ahead and take a stab at it. That's exactly what he does. He bets $10, so the small blind decides to call, and I decide to call as well. $10 into $9 is a pot-sized bet, so we do have to be a little cautious here and proceed with caution, as there's a possibility that we might not have the best hand. We can be outkicked by King 10, Jack 10, Ace 10, hands of that nature. When the turn comes to 9, the small blind checks, I check, and the button checks. It's a lot less likely that they have a very strong hand now. The ace of diamonds improves my hand a little bit as my kicker now chops with a lot of other hands that I might have been behind to. And after the small blind checks and I check, button bets 10. I call for the price that we're getting. And to no surprise, we're chopping this pot down. In this very next hand, we look down at Queen Jack off on the button. And when it folds to us, we're always going to be opening the pot here. We use a size of $15. And especially in these rake configuration games, we want to try to take down as much money as we can without seeing a flop. You can win when you don't see a flop if you get folds. However, the big blind calls and we go heads up to a board that comes King 8-3 rainbow. When he checks here, we go small, $10 into 30. And he folds before we can even put the money in. Just shows the importance of continuation betting and making sure that you're always putting a bet, especially on those range boards. At this point of the session, we've made plenty of mental notes on the player tendencies around us. And so we're ready to make the proper adjustments here to begin to exploit these guys. There's a limp in the end of the gun +1 position. I look down at King 10 off in the +2 position, and I decide to open here to $20. While this is a wider open, especially in an early position, and the solver would say no as well as the charts. As I mentioned earlier, these players are overcalling and overfolding on flops when I bet very small. So I'm trying to isolate fish here, and that's what I do with the player to my right. It folds to him, he calls, we go heads up, the board is Queen Jack Jack, and we're open-ended here. This is a board that obviously favors our range, and we're going to bet it at a high frequency. So we go small here. We go 15 into 45, and he folds. As I mentioned earlier, these players are folding to multiple continuation bets, so we're going to be V-pipping at a very higher frequency. In this very next hand of the session, we look down at King Queen of Clubs on the button, and these guys are quite frankly tired of me. I'm the only one opening pots. They're making these remarks about me not letting them get into pots. And so when the low jack and the cutoff decide to flat, I open up to $20 here. I'm really hoping they don't give me no respect, as this time I have a pretty decent hand. I'm on the button with the suited Broadway in position, and when the big blind calls, I'm kind of hoping and expecting the low jack to call, but he doesn't do that. He finds the fold. Surprising enough, you would not believe what happens next. The cutoff player now decides to back raise all in for $200. He's been doing this earlier in the session with hands like King 10, 9, 10 suited. And so at this point, we're going to kind of call. You're going to give some action here. If he's ahead, he's ahead. And if not, maybe we have outs to suck out. It's exactly what we do when the board comes Queen 4, 9, 2 clubs. We flop top pair with the flush draw. The turn is the 3 diamonds. The river is a deuce of spades. And he slams down ace 10 of spades. My read was right. This player was not strong after all. We take down a pretty good pot. It's not even a full orbit, and we already want to get involved in the hand here. Our hands are itchy, our knees are weak, our palms are heavy, however the heck the song goes. We look down at King Queen off in the cutoff. We're basically in the button because, you wouldn't guess it, the player to our left is in passive nit. He's not playing many hands, so we're almost guaranteed to have position here. The end of the gun player decides to flap $3, so I make it 20. The big blind calls, the end of the gun player calls, and we go 3 ways to a board that comes deuce, 8, deuce. They both snap check, and this isn't a board that favors our range in the cutoff, board that we're going to be range checking at a very high frequency, and that's exactly what we do. We go here to a turn that comes the 4 of spades. We do have the queen of spades in our hand, but when the big blind player decides to lead out for $15 and the under the gun player decides to flat, I don't think I have much fold equity against these guys. I said they're only betting when they have it. We look down at our hand one more time, and we throw it away even though we have 2 overs. Potential possibility that we're drawing dead.
Bonus hand.
Nice hand. And what do you know? They only bet when they have it. Quad deuces. Drawing dead. At this point in the session, we've built a pretty good reputation for ourselves. We're expecting to get a lot of action. It's exactly what happens this hand. I look down at ace-jack of clubs here, and the under the gun +2 player decides to flat. I'm in the low jack here, and I decide to open up to $20. I get a call from the hijack, the button, and the +2 player as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, we wanted this action. That's what we're getting. We go to a board that comes Queen 7, 3, 1 club. We have an over, the backdoor nut flush draw. When the end of the gun player checks here, we're going to be checking a range out of position every single time here. And now the button decides to bet out for $130 into $80. This is a 150% pot size bet. And to this particular player, we're just never good unless we really do go backdoor nut flush draw. So we fold. At this point of the session, my respect is getting lower, but my range is getting higher. We look down at ace-king off in the cutoff. When the low jack player flats, what do you know? We open at $20. Small blind folds, big blind folds, low jack folds, and we take down this pot, $7. Hey, we'll take it. In rake configuration games, I'm totally fine taking down the dead money and avoiding the rake in these rake configuration games. It can be a lot, so we'll take it. At this point of the session, we're going to be raising almost any suited cards. And we look down at ace-6 of hearts and the low jack here. In this unopened pot, we decide to make it 15 since there's no limpers behind us. And what do you know? Small blind folds, big blind folds, and we made $4 here. If we can do this 3 to 4 times in an hour, we're adding an extra $16 an hour into our hourly, and we're avoiding the rake, as I mentioned earlier. All good things, however, must come to an end. In this very next hand, we're in the under the gun +2 position. We have ace-3 of clubs here, and the +1 and the under the gun player fold. So we decide to, you guessed it, open the pot for $15. We get a single call from the hijack, and everyone else folds, including the blinds. So now we're going heads up, out of position here, with the flop that comes King 10, 7 monotone. This is realistically where I probably should be checking range here out of position, especially into passive players. But I don't do that. I bet $10 into 34, and he calls, and now there's $54 in the middle. The turn comes a board pairing 10, and at this point, we're telling the story. There's $144 in the pot. We decided to put $45. As we're cutting out our chips, though, as you can see here, the player beats us before we can even put our chips out. We hadn't even verbalized the bet. We were just cutting and sliding, and he beat us to the pot. This has to raise a couple of flags here. We have to proceed with caution. When the river comes to deuce of diamonds, I check to him. He decides to bet out here. There's just absolutely no way that we're good. We fold and we let him take this one down. The very next hand, we look down at Queen 9 offsuit on the button. And you'd probably be thinking, Brian, you should really tighten up your range. You're getting really splashy. Absolutely not. We have a reputation to uphold by holding the name Action Brian, and we have an obligation here to raise the button with Queen 9 off. And that's exactly what we do when the low jack, the hijack, and the cutoff decide to flat here. We go ahead and open the pot to $25, and now the low jack and the hijack are going to call, and the cutoff is going to fold. Did he really not anticipate that I was going to raise this pot? I guess he hates money. The board comes ace, 8, 8, and the ace is a good card for us here. We're always going to be betting any Broadway card. This board is going to favor our range over our opponent's range, and a lot of the 8x combos these players would have let out. They're very passive. They're either going to lead out or they're going to check raise the flop. So when I go $40 here and he simply calls, doesn't raise me, I'm almost more than certain that we can get a fold on many turns here as long as we don't see a heart. With $162 in the pot, we go over to a turn that's the deuce of diamonds. This is practically a brick, and when he snap checks over to us, we bet 75% pot, $120 into $162. We're hoping to fold out some low to middle pocket pairs, or maybe some King X, even Queen X that beat us here, and that's exactly what he does. The table says that I had ace 8, so I had to show them for the one time. The very next hand, we look down at pocket queens in the end of the gun position, and guess what we do? We open a 15. I tell myself there's absolutely no way they're going to respect me at this point anymore, but it folds all the way around to the cutoff, and I only get one call. So now we're actually playing some legitimate poker here. $34 in the pot, we're going heads up, out of position, against a very fishy player who's almost always telegraphed the strength of his hand by either donk leading into us or really check raising. These players just can't resist. The board comes ace, 9, 6, monotone. We have the queen of diamonds in her hand. We have the second nut flush draw basically here. So we decide to do what we always do and bet $10 into a pot of $34. Our opponent folds, and we have to show them this one time. To show them that we do have value in our range occasionally and not just these bluffs. Back to the bluffs. Hand number 13, we're in the button again. And you're starting to see this trend. We love to open up in late position. This is really where we're playing majority of our hands. We get to really navigate and drive the pot and take control here with aggression. And that's what we do here. We get a limp from the end of the gun, the +1, the low jack, and the cutoff. In position here, we decide to squeeze for a sizing of $30. With 4 people that flatted behind us, we probably should be using a sizing of $35 to $40. Queen jack off is not a hand that's really that great or dominated by a lot better queens, a lot of better jacks. And this is really a hand that I just want to take the money down pre-flop with. That's not what happens though. The end of the gun 1 player calls, the low jack folds, and now it goes over to the cutoff. He just sat down. This is the first hand he's played, and he decides to back shove for $150. I don't have much of this guy's range constructed yet, and with the hand that plays very poorly here post-flop, this is a snap fold. We put in the raise so that we could fold to a 3-bet, and that's why raising these hands is very important. In this very next hand of the session, there's a limp from the end of the gun player, and we're in the cutoff. We're in position practically with King 5 diamonds, and this is a hand that we like to open here in later position. The important thing about these passive games is that we could fold when players raise their hands. We know when they have a strong hand, and we know when they have a weak hand. It's exactly what we're targeting here as we go heads up here when the under the gun player calls. We're in position now, playing against a player that continues to make the same mistakes and hasn't made the appropriate adjustments to play against us. The board is going to come Jack 8, Jack, Rainbow. When this guy checks over to us, you know what we're going to do. We're going to take a stab here. We're going to go $10 into a pot of $34. He puts in the call pretty darn rapidly, and when the turn is the king, we now have top pair. With 50 in the pot, and he checks to us, we decide to go 15 here. We're going to go small again for a third size pot. We want to give him the rope so that he can raise his strong stuff and call with his weak stuff. The river now comes the deuce, and when he checks, we check back, and he turns over pocket queens. We probably could have gone for a little bit thicker value, but just comes to show that he actually did get a little tricky there, knowing that I was going to raise these pots for him. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop the aggression. We're in the small blind now with pocket sixes, and after we get a limp from the low jack, the hijack, and the button player, I decide to squeeze here to the correct sizing this time. I make it $35 with $13 in the pot. They all fold, and we take this one down. We would now proceed to go to lunch, where we would get a slice of pizza from Hidden Village Pizza. Their pepperoni Detroit style is just amazing. Just look at that thing. Our phone would then proceed to die, unfortunately. But let me tell you about this hand. We would then proceed to return to the game in the button, where we would look down at Jack 9 of spades over and under the gun flat. We open the pot here to $20, and to our surprise, the small blind decides to call, pricing the under the gun player, who thinks for a bit before putting the call. So now it's $60 in the pot. We went three ways to a flop that came Jack, 10, 8, rainbow. We have top pair and an open-ended straight draw here, and when the small blind decides to donk bet out for $15 to $60, he's got about $200 behind, and when the under the gun player decides to fold, we just rip it to play for stacks here with our top pair and our open-ended straight draw. If he's got us, but that does not seem to be the point as he goes deep into the tank. With the 9 in our hand here, we have removal to queen 9, which would be the nuts. So I'm feeling pretty darn confident, but the kid does end up making the call. We go to a run-up that comes the deuce of diamonds, and then the 7 of spades on the river, giving us the straight, and we quickly expose our hand to avoid him from being embarrassed. He later on tells us that he had two pair with Jack 10, which I feel is highly unreasonable with us having a Jack in our hand and the duration of time that he took to think, but nonetheless, we had $300 to our stack here. It wouldn't even be 5 minutes until we got involved in a hand. However, we're looking down at a monster this time. Ace King of Diamonds in the low jack. Here, when it folds to us, we decide to open up to $15, and the small blind and the big blind fold, and what a bad beat. But nonetheless, we take down the dead money. The very next hand in the hijack, we'll look down at Ace of Clubs, the King of Diamonds. We have one of the exact same cards that we just had. And when it folds over to us here in the hijack, we open up to $15, and we get just a single call here from the big blind player. There's about $34 in the pot now, and we're going heads up in position here to a board that comes King, 3, Deuce, Rainbow. If you can see from his stack here, he's got about $80 effective, and he decides to donk off into us here. He bets $20 into this pot of $54 and leaving himself $60 behind. We shove all in, he snap folds, and we show him that we weren't bullying him. At this point of the night, we decided to take a table change, and let me tell you, it was the best thing we could have done. We're up piles at this point of the session, up $1,200, and we turned our phone over from landscape mode to portrait mode to be able to record some reels and shorts. You can find these on my Instagram page, and as always, the link to that will be in the description of this video. Mentioned at the start of the video, I'm giving away $250, partnering with Left Pocket to give you guys a portion of our wins every time we hit a $5,000 milestone. All you have to do is follow both of us on Instagram, use the Left Pocket app, and post a session, win or lose with the Left Pocket app, tagging both of us. You will then be entered into a chance to win a $250 poker bankroll booster. The remaining of the session can and will be found in the form of Instagram Reels, where you'll be able to review the hands that I played. The session will then continue to get good as you can see the bet sizes and the stack size, but it was time to wrap up a win.